Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Abbots address for Friday, May 15th. Someone wrote in and they sent me a YouTube link to an article or an interview, rather, with Sam Harris, who's a current writer and thinker. He's a critiquer of religion, amongst many other things. And I was asked, what do you think about this guy? He's teaching meditation, and, how does what you guys do in Toledo relate or not to this guy's view. And so I thought I'd respond to that a little bit. First of all, for full disclosure, I like Sam Harris. I think not every single thing that he has to say, but I think generally the kinds of critiques that he makes and so on are well thought out and worth having in the air. They're difficult conversations. They're conversations that are very uncomfortable. I don't agree with every single thing he has to say, but I think the role that he plays in having these conversations is very useful, and I can see where it makes a lot of people squeamish. Specifically, in terms of what we're doing here in the Sangha in Toledo, the video was a critique broadly of religions in general, and then getting into some discussion about the meditation practices that Sam's familiar with and that he is an advocate of, and how this works. So in general, I would respond to Sam in a couple of ways. The most important way for me is that when I listen to him critique religion, he says he said something along the lines of even communities that are very, very liberal and that are very, very benign and that get together maybe to reaffirm clear ethical principles and to share their lives together, they're still in the rubric of religion, of organized religion, and therefore they're giving cover to the more extremist forms of religion that exist. And he fills that out quite nicely when he has conversations about that. One of the things that for me is missing in that critique is that it's very important to understand, at least for me and for us and for people that practice in Zen, that the community is not just a gathering of like-minded people that affirm that they're the inside group and that other people are on the outside. And I think a lot of times that does happen in maybe other traditions or something. It becomes a sectarianism or like nationalism and so on. It becomes a separating point. But really, excuse me, really for us, we gather in the sense of a dojo. So, and a dojo is a martial art place, a place of training the way, is the way it's described. So it's a growth organization. So that it's not just a gathering to reaffirm things, it's actually gathering to study and to practice and to deepen, see. So that's one of the really important reasons why it's valuable to actually get together. To actually have this encounter with the teachings and the encounter with the teacher and the encounter with the community of people that practice that, not in the service of just saying over and over again what we think or what we feel or what we believe or something like that, but for the fact of actually deepening our study of the practice. So, and that's the other point that I would say is that in the Zen tradition specifically, the Zen teacher is not just like a pontificator of the party line. A Zen teacher is, or should be, in my opinion, a teacher, so that people are actually learning. See, and so every teacher creates a way to interface with them. And there are some teachers, I suppose, that are very hermit-like about it. That you can only go see them one-on-one, and the encounter is very intense and very short and not connected with the community. But I think that would be really, really rare, relatively speaking. In my own trajectory, my personal studies with Father Kevin Hunt were a little like that. But he's a Trappist monastic, and he's cloistered, and he's not somebody you can get together with very easily. But even him, he had a community of people that he guided and that met, and they did retreats together. See, So the idea that it's a growth hierarchy, that it's a place of, it's more analogous to a university than to just a sort of a self-affirmation club with a spokesperson at the front. See, so we get together so that we can encounter the teaching, we can encounter the teachings, and the practice and the community and like that. And the other thing to say is that, he points out that it's possible to learn the meditational technique that he's familiar with, and there's no need to gather in a group and do this necessarily. And you can learn the basic technique and go ahead and practice, and that's true. Of course, that's true. But besides the point of definitely in Zen there being a lot to this, and the rabbit hole goes down quite a bit further um, than one might think, and that the only way to get there is to really work with the teacher in depth for a very long period of time, generally. Um, Besides that, there's also the fact that people today are, in my view, many people are extremely isolated, and that it's important to have a place to gather where people can actually be in community, specifically to address this social isolation that people feel. And I think that this strikes particularly hard at the contemplative leaning people, the people that have a kind of contemplative intelligence or mystical intelligence or spiritual intelligence or non-dual intelligence or whatever you want to use there. I think those of us that are contemplative by nature, that have that, can be pretty prone to this isolating quality. And so I see all the time where people, when they finally come into a setting where they're understood and that contemplative experience has high value, that it's a very, very nourishing and affirming thing. And in fact, their lives can go in directions that are very difficult to happen otherwise when they're isolated like that. So it's a good thing we get together, and it's not a problem at all that we gather, and that yes, there's a culture of a Sunday service, and I'm a priest, and we get together as a community, and it's a religion. And maybe that's not the approach for everybody, but for those of us for whom it works incredibly well. Even the liturgies that we do, the kinds of, the funny clothes we wear and the Dharma names that we use and all of these kinds of practice have carried the wisdom of this tradition for centuries. And it's the job for each one of us and each teacher, I should say, to adapt it to the current times, and we're doing that. But I think that us gathering together and practicing together is a permanent feature. I hope it's a permanent feature and fixture to actually go all the way down the rabbit hole to see what's there and to be in community while we do it. So there we are. So I look forward to any comments or responses to that. And, Sam is definitely one of those people that I have my eye on and my ear to. And I'm grateful that he's out there doing what he's doing, and don't agree with every single word he says. So in terms of announcements, we have session starting this evening, and then we'll have our Ango closing ceremony on Sunday. And so I look forward to seeing everybody in the Zendo. It's been a great Ango. People have been really stepping up and stepping into their practice, and I'm in the lucky position to get to hear about it. So I'm lucky enough now to be able to share it with you. Everybody's been doing great. So we'll see you in the Zendo, everybody.